1956. Paramount Studios, Stage 7. The morning fog hasn't lifted from the Hollywood hills, but inside the massive soundstage, artificial smoke drifts across a meticulously constructed World War I battlefield. Prop corpses lie scattered among fake shell craters, blood, corn syrup, and red dye, pools in carefully calculated positions. The cameras roll for paths of glory, but what's about to happen isn't in the script. Kirk Douglas stands in the center of this mock battlefield, surrounded by the debris of manufactured war. He's preparing for his most dramatic scene, a soldier breaking down from shell shock, the scene that will define his performance, the moment that might win him an Oscar. But Douglas has never seen real combat, never heard a man scream as shrapnel tears through his chest, never held his best friend while life bleeds out in a French foxhole, never stood on a burning tank destroyer, firing a .50 caliber machine gun at 200 advancing German soldiers, knowing that if he stops, everyone dies. What he's about to do will cross a line that can never be uncrossed. Douglas closes his eyes, draws from his training at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, summons his craft. He thinks about loss, about fear, about helplessness. He channels every emotional memory he can access. Then he begins to shake. His hands tremble first, then his voice cracks. He drops to his knees among the prop bodies and lets out a wail that echoes across the soundstage, a perfectly modulated cry of anguish, crafted for maximum emotional impact. It's pure performance, calculated, rehearsed, designed to move audiences and win awards. The crew watches in respectful silence. Some of the grips wipe their eyes. The cinematographer adjusts his lens to capture every nuance of Douglas's breakdown. This is what great acting looks like. 50 feet away, leaning against a lighting rig in the shadows beyond the key lights, Audie Murphy watches in absolute silence. Murphy knows what real shell shock looks like. He's lived with it for 11 years. Every night he wakes up screaming from dreams where German artillery turns his squad into pink mist. Every crowd makes him sweat. Every unexpected sound, a car backfiring, a door slamming, children playing with firecrackers, sends his hand reaching for a weapon that isn't there. Last week, his 4-year-old son dropped a pot in the kitchen. Murphy dove behind the breakfast table, his mind instantly transported to a foxhole outside Holtzwihr, France, where mortar rounds fell like deadly rain. His wife found him there 20 minutes later, shaking and calling out the names of dead men. He's watching Kirk Douglas, Hollywood's golden boy, the actor who made his fortune playing tough guys, turn his personal hell into entertainment. Douglas continues his performance, writhing on the ground, his voice breaking as he delivers lines about the horrors of war that screenwriter Calder Willingham crafted from books and interviews, never from experience. The actor's eyes fill with tears on cue. His body convulses with perfectly timed spasms of grief. Stanley Kubrick, the young director everyone says is a genius, watches from behind the camera with the intensity of a surgeon. He's 28 years old and has never been closer to war than a newsreel. But he knows drama. He knows what sells tickets. He knows what critics want to see. Beautiful, Kubrick whispers to his assistant director. This is exactly what trauma looks like. But Murphy's expression doesn't change. His face remains stone. His eyes, cold as winter steel, never leave Douglas. His hands, scarred from 11 years of nightmares and guilty mornings, clench slowly into fists. The irony isn't lost on him. He came to Hollywood because Sam Goldwyn thought a real war hero would sell movie tickets. Authenticity, they called it. But now he's watching the most inauthentic thing he's ever seen. A man performing the very wounds that Murphy carries every day. Douglas reaches the climax of his scene, collapsing completely, his voice breaking on the line. The screaming, God help me, the screaming never stops. It's a moment of pure theatrical brilliance. Raw, powerful, completely fabricated. Then something happens that will haunt everyone on that set for the rest of their lives. Before we continue with what Murphy did next, let me ask you something. Have you ever watched someone mock something sacred to you? Hit that subscribe button if you want to see how a real hero handles disrespect. Douglas finishes his scene to enthusiastic applause. The crew breaks into spontaneous clapping. Even the hardened grips, men who've seen everything Hollywood can manufacture, seem moved. Douglas stands up, brushes prop dirt from his costume, and flashes that famous Kirk Douglas smile, the one with the cleft chin and perfect teeth. "How was that, Stanley?" he asks director Stanley Kubrick, his voice already back to its normal confident cadence. The trauma is gone. Turned off like a switch. "Brilliant," Kubrick responds, lowering his viewfinder. "That's exactly what shell shock looks like. The way you collapsed at the end. Pure poetry." The assistant director makes notes on his clipboard. That's a print. Moving on to setup B. The crew begins shifting equipment, resetting lights, preparing for the reverse angle. Just another scene in just another movie about the horrors of war. Business as usual in the Dream Factory. Murphy pushes himself off the lighting rig and begins walking toward the center of the set. His footsteps echo in the sudden awareness that something is about to happen. Conversations die mid-sentence. Equipment stops moving. Every crew member turns to watch. There's something in Murphy's movement, predatory, precise, controlled, that makes everyone's survival instinct scream danger. This isn't the gentle war hero they know from publicity photos. This is something else. Something that's been waiting in the shadows. Douglas sees him coming and extends his hand, still riding the high of a perfect performance. "Audie, what did you think? Pretty realistic, right?" His voice carries the confident expectation of praise. Murphy stops 3 feet away. He doesn't take the offered hand. Doesn't smile. Doesn't speak. The silence stretches. 10 seconds. 20. 30. Douglas's smile begins to falter. His extended hand wavers in the air, then drops to his side. The crew shifts uncomfortably, sensing something they can't name. Something is very wrong here. Murphy's voice, when it finally comes, is barely above a whisper. But in the absolute quiet of the soundstage, no cameras running, no equipment humming, every word carries like thunder. That's not what it looks like. Douglas blinks, confused. His actor's training tells him to respond, to engage, to keep the scene moving. "What do you mean?" Murphy takes 1 step closer. His eyes, pale blue, empty as Arctic ice, lock onto Douglas's face with the intensity of a sniper's scope. Shell shock, combat fatigue, battle neurosis, whatever pretty name you want to give it. His voice remains soft, conversational, but there's something underneath it that makes grown men step backward. That's not what it looks like. The temperature in the room seems to drop 10 degrees. Douglas tries to recover his composure, falling back on his training. "Well, I mean, everyone experiences trauma differently. Do they?" Murphy cuts him off. Still quiet. Still deadly calm. Murphy begins to circle Douglas slowly, like a predator studying wounded prey. The crew watches, mesmerized and terrified, as America's most decorated soldier stalks Hollywood's biggest star. "You want to know what it really looks like, Kirk?" Douglas opens his mouth to respond, but Murphy continues as if he hasn't spoken. "It looks like Johnny Reese from Tyler, Texas, who used to make me laugh by doing bird calls. Perfect mocking birds, cardinals, even blue jays. You know what Johnny's bird call sounded like after a German grenade took off his jaw? Like a tea kettle. A wet, gurgling tea kettle. He lived for 14 hours making that sound." The color drains from Douglas's face. Murphy keeps circling, his voice never rising above that terrifying whisper. "It looks like Lieutenant Haney, 23 years old, married 6 months before shipping out. He was so scared of letting his men down that he kept fighting for 3 minutes after a sniper put a bullet through his spine. Kept giving orders while his legs went numb and his bladder let go. Kept telling his boys to advance while he drowned in his own blood. Someone in the crew makes a small, sick sound. It looks like Bobby Torres from San Antonio, 18 years old, had never kissed a girl, still wrote letters to his mother every week. After the mortar hit, I had to pick up pieces of him with a shovel, his dog tags, part of his helmet, things that used to be Bobby but weren't anymore. Douglas tries to back away, but Murphy matches his movements step for step, maintaining that precise 3-foot distance. You know what I did while Bobby was dying? I kept shooting. Because if I stopped to help him, more boys would die. So I let him scream for his mother, in Spanish, because the pain made him forget his English, while I counted my ammunition and calculated angles of fire. The soundstage is so quiet you can hear the ventilation system humming 40 feet overhead. Murphy stops directly in front of Douglas, close enough to smell his fear. Shell shock isn't a performance, Kirk. It's not something you turn on and off for cameras. It's waking up every night for 11 years, wondering why you're alive when better men aren't. It's jumping when a car backfires because part of your brain thinks it's incoming artillery. It's not being able to hold your own son because your hands shake too much and you're afraid you'll hurt him. Murphy's voice finally rises, just slightly. It's not entertainment. The words hang in the air like smoke from a discharged weapon. Douglas swallows hard. His legendary confidence has evaporated completely. Audie, I was just trying to honor. Honor? The word comes out like a slap. You want to honor the boys who didn't come home? Murphy turns to address the entire crew, his voice carrying to every corner of the soundstage. Stop making movies about how terrible war is and start making movies about why it's necessary. Stop showing audiences our pain and start showing them our purpose. He turns back to Douglas, and now there's something new in his eyes, not just ice anymore, but fire underneath it. Because when you turn what we went through into a show, you cheapen it. You make our nightmares into your applause lines. You take the worst moments of our lives and turn them into your career highlights. Stanley Kubrick, who has been watching in stunned silence, finally finds his voice. Audie, we're trying to show the brutality of war to help people understand. Murphy's laugh is sharp and bitter. Understand? You want people to understand war? Then show them the aftermath. Show them the Gold Star mothers who will never see their sons graduate. Show them the fathers who work 2 jobs to pay for headstones they'll never stop visiting. Show them the wives who learned to sleep alone and the children who grew up without daddies. His eyes return to Douglas, and for the first time there's something other than ice in them. There's exhaustion. Soul-deep weariness that comes from carrying the dead. Don't show them actors pretending to be broken. Show them broken men learning to live. Murphy reaches into his jacket and pulls out a small, worn photograph. The edges are soft from handling, the faces slightly faded from time and tears. He holds it up for Douglas to see. 7 young men in army uniforms, arms around each other's shoulders, grinning at the camera with the invincibility of youth. My squad? Before Anzio. His voice is quiet again, but different now. Hollow. I'm the only one still breathing. The photograph trembles slightly in his hand. Charlie Hendricks, machine gunner, took a mortar fragment to the throat. Jimmy Patterson, BAR man. Sniper got him in Anzio. Marcus Washington, medic. Died trying to save Jimmy. Eddie Klein, radio operator. Stepped on a mine 3 days before we shipped home. He pauses, staring at the faces. Tom Bradley, squad leader. My best friend. Grenade landed right between us. I dove left, he dove right. Chunk of shrapnel the size of a silver dollar went through his heart. Murphy looks up at Douglas. When you perform their pain, Kirk, you perform their death. And that's not yours to take. The silence that follows is deafening. Murphy carefully puts the photograph away, his movements precise and reverent. You know what shell shock really looks like? It looks like me standing in a grocery store, unable to remember why I came there because I heard a veteran crying 3 aisles over, and it brought back everything. It looks like canceling dinner plans because the restaurant is too crowded and crowds make my hands shake. It looks like apologizing to my wife for the 100th time because I woke up screaming and scared our children. He turns and walks toward the exit. Every step echoes like a gunshot in the cathedral quiet of the soundstage. At the door, he stops, doesn't turn around. If you want to make a movie about shell shock, don't hire an actor. Hire a veteran. Let him tell his own story. Let him decide how much pain he wants to share. Then he's gone, leaving behind a room full of people who suddenly understand the difference between performing courage and living with its cost. Kirk Douglas stands in the center of the abandoned battlefield set, surrounded by fake corpses and artificial smoke. For the first time in his career, he has nothing to say. Stanley Kubrick quietly calls a halt to filming for the day. In the weeks that follow, word spreads through Hollywood about what happened on Stage 7. The story changes with each telling. Some say Murphy threatened Douglas, others claim he broke down crying, but everyone agrees on one thing: something sacred was witnessed that day. A line was drawn between performance and truth, between entertainment and honor. Kirk Douglas never spoke publicly about the incident, but those who worked with him afterward noticed changes. He stopped taking war roles, started visiting VA hospitals quietly, without publicity, began using his fame to advocate for veteran benefits rather than just veteran stories. Audie Murphy continued making westerns and war films, but with one non-negotiable condition. Technical advisors had to be actual veterans. Scripts had to be approved by men who'd been there. The pain had to serve a purpose beyond box office receipts. The photograph Murphy showed that day, the one of his squad before Anzio, sits now in the Audie Murphy Museum in Greenville, Texas. The plaque beneath it reads, "7 friends, 6 heroes, 1 survivor." Because some stories are too important to be left to actors. Some pain is too sacred to be performed. And sometimes, the most powerful thing a man can do is simply tell the truth about what he's endured. What Murphy taught Hollywood that day wasn't about acting or directing or making better movies. It was about the difference between honoring sacrifice and exploiting it, between remembering the dead and entertaining the living. Kirk Douglas learned the lesson. So did Stanley Kubrick. So did every person who witnessed a real hero draw the line between what's sacred and what's for sale. In a town built on illusion, Audie Murphy reminded everyone that some things are too real to fake. Hit that subscribe button and let us know in the comments. Do you think there's a difference between portraying trauma and exploiting it? And unfortunately, they don't make men like Audie Murphy anymore.